I can assure you that as long as I, Crocodile, live, the people of Valabasta will never have the problem of water shortage again, Crocodile said in a serious voice. His voice was not loud, but extremely powerful, and was clearly heard by everyone nearby. As soon as Crocodile finished speaking, tears immediately streamed down Dodo's wrinkled face. Wow, that great, it really great, as Duato was the first to cry out loud. The people around him were also influenced by him and started crying loudly. Soon, the whole of Juba was enveloped by these countless cries. They have waited too long for this moment. It has been 3 years, and they have been living through such a hard time, as if they were in purgatory. I watched helplessly as my loved ones died one by one in front of me. The city was in ruins, and the fields were barren, but I could do nothing. The incompetent king attributed everything to God's will and did nothing except occasionally distributing some disaster relief supplies. Today, a man finally stood up and told them that they would no longer have to worry about water. How could this not make people happy and excited, influenced by these poor people? Vivi also covered her mouth and cried. The other people from the Baroque workshop remained silent, somewhat ashamed. All of them more or less know who is involved in the current situation. However, they cannot guess what the big shots are thinking. They were just following orders and executing a small part of this huge plan. Crocodile didn't like watching this kind of scene, as it would only deepen his guilt, so he said, "Let's get started now without further delay." He took the lead and walked further out of the city. The awakened sand fruit has become even more powerful. Crocodile, just by walking on the ground, one can clearly feel the flow of underground water veins hidden deep in the desert. He no longer had to touch the ground with his hands as before, which greatly improved his efficiency in finding water sources. After walking for several miles, Crocodile finally found an underground river with a large amount of water. He ordered his members to bring the people who had been following him to a safe area. Crocodile stomped his right foot hard on the ground, and the ground suddenly came alive and began to surge wildly. It was as if an invisible giant hand was constantly digging out the sand from the ground and spreading it around. Crocodile stared expressionlessly at a huge sand pit that continued to expand and deepen in front of him. His idea was to dig a huge artificial lake directly outside the city of Juba. The lake water all comes from underground rivers and is completely sufficient for the city residents. Moreover, all of Valabasta underground rivers are connected to the Santa Dora River that runs through the entire country, and are essentially inexhaustible. As the sand pit continues to expand and deepen, clear groundwater has been gushing out from the bottom of the pit. But Crocodile did not stop. He controlled the direction of the quicksand and continued to spread towards the city of Juba. Underground water outlets were opened one by one, and the water level in the sand pit rose rapidly. The people watching from afar cheered and hugged their relatives and friends tightly. At this moment, in everyone's eyes, the man standing deep in the desert was like a real god. People shouted and praised his name. Long live Crocodile! Crocodile, the national hero! Crocodile is the greatest man, we will never forget Crocodile kindness. Vivi couldn't help feeling a little jealous. His father Cobra had worked diligently for the country for so many years, but he had never been so popular. However, thinking of her father's helplessness in the face of drought, and looking at the powerful man in front of her who could make things happen with a wave of his hand, Vivi couldn't help but look at Crocodile with a strange look in her eyes. The excavation of the artificial lake lasted for nearly 2 hours before Crocodile let out a long sigh and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Carrying out such a huge project in the desert would be exhausting even with his current strength. If ordinary people were asked to do it, it would be impossible to complete it without large machinery. After completing the part that should have been done by him, Crocodile raised his hand and called Gardino to his side. Gardino was totally confused and had no idea what his boss was going to do next. Use your ability to melt the fruit to melt all the sand on the surface of the artificial lake into glass. It would be best if you could cover the surface with a layer of candles. That should be okay, right? Crocodile said, standing on the shore and pointing at the artificial lake in front of him. After Gardino fruit ability awakened, the practicality of the fruit changed dramatically. In particular, when sand is melted, it can be turned into glass, which is both beautiful and durable. In addition, the candles he produced himself became harder than steel after awakening. Even open flames could not burn him unless he wanted to. Now I'm just facing the high temperature in Alabasta and I am not afraid at all. It would be a waste of resources if such capabilities were not used for construction projects. I understand, Gardino replied weakly with a bitter face. He just couldn't understand it. How could he, a senior secret agent of the Baroque agency, suddenly become a tool? After squatting down and pressing his hands on the ground, the desert on the ground began to be assimilated into candles, spreading continuously around the edge of the artificial lake. The entire artificial lake seems to be covered with a white scarf, which looks very beautiful. Considering the huge area of the artificial lake, Gardino finally completed the task assigned by his boss after spending more than an hour. Gardino heaved a sigh of relief and collapsed to the ground, powerless. At this moment, Dodo, with a happy face, supported by others, brought the people of Juba back to Crocodile. Master Crocodile, thank you for everything you have done for the Juba people. We, the Judeans, will remember your kindness for generations to come. As he said this, he actually knelt down in front of Crocodile again, and the people behind him saw this and followed Dodo and knelt down to the ground and prostrated themselves. Crocodile couldn't help but be moved when he saw this. What simple people they were. Theoretically, these people are all his crocodile subjects. Everyone, please get up. Solving the water problem for everyone today is just the beginning. As long as you are willing to believe in me and follow my footsteps, all citizens of Alabasta will not only have endless water to drink, but will also have endless money to spend and endless good days to enjoy. Crocodile was influenced by these simple people and couldn't help feeling a surge of pride in his heart. So he made a great ambition in front of everyone. We are willing to follow Crocodile Sama until death. Long live Lord Crocodile. The people were excited and echoed loudly. There is one more thing I want to make clear to everyone. Due to limited funds and capabilities, the country is temporarily unable to help you rebuild your homes. This country has no pillar industries, so the economy has not been able to develop. I plan to rebuild an international metropolis in the coastal area. This city will drive the development of our country, tourism and trade, and then use the money earned to benefit the entire country. I know that Juba was a trading city before, but now I hope that people here who are good at business or willing to leave will come with me to build this new city. For the rest of you who don't want to leave, please be patient and give the country some time. We will not forget you and Juba either. After Crocodile finished speaking, the people of Juba looked at each other and began to discuss in a low voice. Crocodile did not interrupt, but quietly observed their reactions. After waiting for a long time, Duochio spoke on behalf of everyone. Lord Crocodile, we ordinary people don't understand economics and trade. We only know that you, sir, have brought us water and hope for life. We, the Juba people, will fully support whatever decisions you make. An old, weak, and disabled person like me no longer has much strength to help you, so let the young people of Juba go with you. Crocodile paused for a moment and said, okay, you guys make some preparations in Juba first. Once we determine the exact location, we will arrange transportation to pick you up. Everyone can rest assured that everyone who goes there will have their own new home and a fairly good job there. Crocodile words made many young people eager to try, and they couldn't wait to follow this adult away. Sir, it's getting late and everyone must be hungry. To thank you for bringing a new water source to Juba, we took the initiative to prepare some food and wine. We hope you can do us the honor of attending the banquet prepared for you by the Juba people. Dodo stood up and said to Crocodile with enthusiasm. Crocodile wanted to refuse immediately after hearing this. The people in this city had been living in hunger for a long time, and a banquet might make their life even more difficult. After all, just drinking water can't solve the problem of hunger. No need for that. We have to hurry to Aluma. The people there are in urgent need of water. Crocodile gave a very convincing reason without damaging the self-esteem of the Juba people. Although everyone's faces were filled with regret, they couldn't come up with any reason to object, so Duochio had to turn around and start discussing something in a low voice with the people around him. In that case, Could you please agree to one additional small request of ours, sir? Not long after, they seemed to have come to some conclusion after discussing it again. Oh, just tell me. Crocodile was not afraid of them making any excessive demands. We hope that the Lord will agree to let us erect a statue of you in Yuba. Dodo rubbed his dry hands nervously, fearing that Crocodile would refuse again. Statue? Dodo word surprised Crocodile. This was the treatment only true great men could get. I didn't expect that just by solving their water problem, I would receive such recognition from the Juba people. That fine. Thank you very much. Crocodile also couldn't think of any reason to refuse. I guess no one can refuse others' worship. Crocodile convoy slowly drove away with the reluctant farewell of the Judines. Although Crocodile looked a little tired while sitting in the car, there was always a smile on his face. Although he started out as a villain, it's always better to be loved than to be hated by everyone. Vivi, who was sitting next to them, was also unable to calm down after what she saw and heard in Juba that day. She just couldn't understand how Crocodile, the villain she hated so much not long ago, could become a great benefactor in the eyes of the common people in just a few days. What kind of magic power does this guy have? This is not something that can be achieved simply by possessing a devil fruit. Have I been blaming him wrongly all along? Vivi fell into deep self-doubt for a while, and turned her head from time to secretly look at Crocodile. However, these little actions of hers were once again noticed by Crocodile. This girl, I don't know what she is planning against me again. Their food over there, go get it to me, Crocodile said, pointing to a cabinet next to the refrigerator. Vivi kept stealing glances at Crocodile and felt a little guilty, but this time she didn't argue and went to get the things quickly. When I opened the cabinet, I was surprised to see that the 3 layers, upper, middle and lower, were filled with all kinds of food. Vivi couldn't help but swallow, and her stomach cooperated by making a gurgling sound. It is particularly clear in this quiet carriage. 2 pink clouds immediately appeared on Vivi's cheeks. She turned her head in the opposite direction of Crocodile and handed over the food from the cabinet awkwardly. Would you like to eat something together? Crocodile asked with a rare kind look. I am not hungry at all, Vivi said stubbornly. Unexpectedly, my stomach was uncooperative and made inappropriate noises again. Crocodile shook his head, calmly picked up the knife, divided the food on the plate in half, and handed it to Vivi. You took too much. I can't eat it all. If you don't want to eat it, throw it away. Vivi looked out the window with red cheeks, afraid that Crocodile would notice that something was wrong with her. But he consciously took the plate handed to him by Crocodile with both hands. There is a severe food shortage in the country right now, and many people can't even get enough to eat. It would be a shame to throw it away, so I will reluctantly help you solve the problem. I see. Thank you very much. Crocodile pretended to understand. Vivi blushed when she heard that. If it wasn't dark, the people around her would have seen it clearly. This bastard must have seen through me a long time ago, but he just didn't say it out loud. Who knows how he must be laughing at me in his heart. Vivi muttered to herself, but her hands never stopped cutting the food on the plate into small pieces with a knife and then putting them into her mouth elegantly. She was really hungry and hadn't eaten anything since morning. Although his movements seem elegant, he actually eats very quickly, one bite after another. Cough cough cough. I didn't expect that I would choke myself. Vivi was coughing violently and pounding her chest with her little fists. At this moment, Crocodile beside her produced a glass of water from somewhere and handed it to her. Vivi took it and drank it all in one gulp without thinking, and at the end she couldn't help but burp a little. You don't have to be so anxious. I won't snatch it from you. Crocodile couldn't help but joked. I just have a thin throat, Vivi argued with a blushing face. Hee, what do you mean by hee? Do you think I am talking nonsense? Crocodile he seemed to have stepped on her tail. Vivi immediately became unyielding, as if she had been greatly insulted. Yes, you are right. Crocodile did not like to show off his eloquence, so he replied casually. Vivi suddenly woke up. Oh my god. What am I doing? How dare I lose my temper with this man? He is the King 7 Warlords Crocodile, who is notorious all over the world. Vivi quickly observed Crocodile's expression with the corner of her eyes, and saw that he didn't seem to care and was resting with his eyes closed, so she breathed a sigh of relief. Why isn't he angry? Why can't I control my emotions in front of him? Thinking back on all the encounters with Crocodile, it seems that except for the one time when I pinched her neck and scolded her, I was quite polite to her at other times. Even though she didn't respect him, the other party didn't take it seriously. Vivi was immediately confused. Crocodile had been single for the 26 years before crossing into the world of pirates. This is the first time I have been alone with a beauty like Vivi for such a long time. Crocodile just thinks Vivi's little temper and willfulness are quite interesting. She succeeded in making Crocodile's journey less boring. If she wasn't so young, barely even an adult, Crocodile felt that he wouldn't be able to resist taking Vivi down. Oh, Big Sister is still the best. It another day when I miss Robin-chan. Crocodile couldn't help but think. The two people, each with their own thoughts, fell into a deep sleep without realizing it, and when they opened their eyes again it was already dawn. Amaru is relatively far from Yuba, and the road is difficult to travel. There were endless huge sand dunes along the way, so the convoy had to reduce its speed to the minimum. It was not until dawn that we drove for a while before finally arriving at the city. Amaru is located in the lower reaches of the Santara River and was once an oasis city. Due to the drying up of the Santara River and the destruction of its tributaries by crocodile men, the river was also extremely short of water. However, the situation here is much better than in Juba. People can still go to the Santa Rosa River to fetch water, but the distance is far and it is difficult to fetch water. Here, Crocodile plan was simple: reopen the tributary that connected to the Santa Dora River. Compared to Juba, the workload here was much smaller, and he didn't even plan to alarm the people in the city. After the accompanying Water Conservancy officer marked the approximate location, Crocodile used the skill desert sword that Crocodile had developed and slashed towards the direction of the Santa Dora River. A blade of sand instantly shot out from the ground beneath Crocodile's feet, swiftly heading into the distance, and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. Under Crocodile's precise control of force, a ditch about 1 person high and more than 10 meters wide has taken shape. Gardino was very tactful this time and started his work before Crocodile gave any instructions. With the tacit cooperation of the two, a tributary connecting to the Santara River was quickly opened, and the surging river water rushed towards Amaru. After doing all this, everyone had a simple meal and then continued on their journey to their final destination, Cartella. That is the rebel base camp and must be pacified as soon as possible. As for Amalu, he left behind several accompanying officials and members of the Baroque Works Society to appease the people, and at the same time prepared to take some of the people to the new city. After crossing the Santara River and traveling for most of the day, they finally arrived at the Rapeseed City, the perfume capital of Alabasta. This city is very close to Cartella, and the two cities are only a few dozen miles apart. Crocodile's ultimate plan for Eden was to build it between these two cities, eventually uniting all three. The water conservancy projects of these three cities happen to be located on the outskirts of Eden. After the three cities are connected, they can share a water system and become inseparable from each other. As coastal cities, Rapeseed City and Catlia are both large in size and have extremely dense populations. Therefore, the corresponding artificial lake must be several times larger than that of Yuba, otherwise it will not be enough. This huge project was indeed a very strenuous task for Crocodile. Just arrived in Rapeseed Flower City, the former rebel leader Kosa had been informed by his father of Crocodile's upcoming arrival, and he led a large number of people to wait outside the city early. The good news from Yuba and Amaru made the people of these two cities cheer. In their hearts, there is no longer any resistance to the Crocodile, any shred of doubt from the new Archon. They have been longing for sufficient water for too long. Like his father, Kosa enjoys high prestige among the people of these two cities and is a leading figure here. Seeing Crocodile and his group get off the car, Kosa took the lead and led everyone to greet them. Vivi was so happy to see her childhood playmate again that she waved and greeted Kosa from a distance. However, Kosa, who was still wrapped in bandages, just nodded slightly to her, which was considered a response. This made Miss Vivi very disappointed. Kosa approached Crocodile with a serious and respectful look, bowed and said, "Master Crocodile, on behalf of all the residents of Rapeseed Flower and Catlia, I welcome you." Crocodile admired this young man very much. For an ordinary person to gain the support of so many people at such a young age, it would be impossible without some means. Rather than leaving him among the people and becoming a hidden danger, it is better to recruit him and train him for your own use. Crocodile also really needs a spokesperson in Alabasta. After all, he can't stay in that position forever. All of his subordinates only know how to fight and kill, and are of no help in handling the government affairs of a country. Master Crocodile, will you really help us find a new source of water at this moment? A little boy who looked only 5 or 6 years old jumped out from the crowd, hugged Crocodile's thighs, raised his head and asked innocently. Crocodile was stunned for a moment, then he bent down, covered the little boy's furry head with his big hand, and said, "Yes, soon everyone will no longer be short of water. Very soon." "Long live Lord Crocodile!" The little boy raised his little fist and shouted excitedly. The people around were infected by the little boy and started shouting together. At this moment, a series of neat footsteps quickly rushed towards Crocodile and others. Crocodile looked around in confusion, and saw countless Navy soldiers coming from all directions, surrounding the place in the blink of an eye. Upon seeing this, the members and senior agents of the accompanying Baroque orcs all took up fighting stances. Crocodile looked at Kosa with a gloomy face. "Kosa, what going on?" Kosa also looked at the surrounding navy with a confused look on his face. I don't know either. We didn't receive any news about the navy coming." A slightly heavy sound of footsteps slowly approached. Crocodile looked in that direction with a vigilant look. Who could be coming? Kizaru or Aokiji? If it was a Kainu, it would be a bit troublesome. The sound was getting closer and closer, and the surrounding navy consciously made way for a passage. A sturdy man wearing a dog-head hat and a white admiral uniform appeared in Crocodile's sight. Kapu! Crocodile pupil shrank suddenly, and a rare trace of panic appeared in his heart. Why is it him who comes? Crocodile had planned everything, but he never expected that the one who would come would be this old man. A person's reputation is like the shadow of a tree. The Navy hero Garp is recognized as the Navy's strongest fighter. Even the pirate King Roger could only flee in embarrassment when he saw his dog-head ship. In Crocodile's original plan, if he met any of the 3 admirals, he would be confident that he could deal with them. But when he met this old guy, Crocodile instantly prepared for the worst. Want to run away? If I really want to run away, even Garp can't do anything to me. But I am afraid none of these people under my command will be able to escape. Facing the Navy's strongest force, it is not shameful to run away, but this idea just flashed through Crocodile's mind and he rejected it. Garp stopped when he was about 7 or 8 meters away from Crocodile, and the 2 men looked at each other. Crocodile said nothing, and neither did Cap. Suddenly, the old man's head drooped down and a bubble the size of a child's fist came out of his nose. He actually fell asleep at this moment. Crocodile was also surprised when he saw this. However, Crocodile had no intention of taking advantage of the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, as he knew it would be a futile effort. "Hey Lieutenant General Garp, now is not the time to sleep." His adjutant Bogart also noticed Garp's abnormality and shouted anxiously. After all, the person standing in front of them is a pirate of the level of Shichibuchi, so he can't help but be careful. Pop! As the bubbles blown out of Cap's nose burst, the old man suddenly woke up, scratched the back of his head and said without apology, Sorry, I just fell asleep." "Well, Crocodile, it's nice to see you at last. Are you going to follow me directly, or do you want me to beat you up before you follow me?" Garp's tone sounded casual, but his words revealed immense confidence and unquestionable dominance. "Vice Admiral Garp, I don't quite understand what you mean." As one of the Shichibukai appointed by the world government, and now appointed by the King of Alabasta as the Grand Archon of this country, I wonder which law I have violated. Crocodile knew that he had a dirty trick, but now he could only play dumb. "You know what you did, and I know it too. Your crimes will never be washed away even if you stay in Impel Down for 100 years, Garp said in a grim tone. Vivi, who was standing aside, felt mixed emotions at this moment. Is he going to be captured? The one coming is a naval hero, a peerless powerhouse. He definitely won't be able to escape, right? But it was him who took away my country. Now he is being arrested. Why can't I be happy at all? There are still so many people who don't have water to drink. If he is arrested, will there still be hope for the people of this country? Should we try to find a way to save him? Vivi was torn between her conscience and her own desires. Having said that, Crocodile knew that today would not end well. Gardino, I will hold this old man back, and you take the others and run as far as you can. As many people as possible escape, Crocodile whispered to Gardino on the side. No, boss, we want to stay and fight with you. Facing the naval hero, although Gardino was afraid, he still flatly refused Crocodile order. Yes, boss, if we are leaving, we will leave together. Ms. Merry Christmas also echoed. I am not leaving. I am protecting the boss. Mr. Sweating profusely and looking silly, said slowly. Boss, you said we are partners. How can we just abandon our partners and run away in disgrace? Even Golden Week, whose combat power was almost zero, was not afraid at this moment. Crocodile was very pleased by what the crowd said. He didn't expect that these people were really as loyal as described in the cover page of the comic. However, Crocodile has his own plans in mind. No, I will create an opportunity for you later. Everyone must take the opportunity to leave, as long as you escape safely, even if I am caught. I believe that with your abilities, you can rescue me. But Gardino was about to speak, but Crocodile raised his hand to stop him. Vice Admiral Garp, if you want to arrest me, it will take more than just a few words. It's a rare opportunity to meet the strongest navy. I'd like to test your fists to see if they are really as hard as the legend says. Sandstorm. Crocodile raised his hands, and two huge tornadoes instantly formed, sweeping towards Garp and the navy that was besieging them. Garp raised his arms to cover his eyes to prevent sand from getting into his eyes. His strong figure stood still in the strong wind. The navy soldiers next to them were not so lucky. Those with weaker strength were directly swept away by the tornado, and only a few were still struggling to resist. Now, Merry Christmas. Dig a hole and take the others away, Crocodile yelled. He didn't say Merry Christmas anymore, but transformed into a mole and dived into the ground. Under her sharp claws, the ground became like tender tofu, and a tunnel big enough for an adult to enter immediately appeared. Several others followed closely and went in. They actually knew that in a battle of this level, staying would only hinder the boss. Crocodile finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw his men crawling into the hole. Once they get in there, the navy will have no way to deal with them. Looking around, there were still many ordinary people nearby. If he and Garp started fighting, the aftermath of the battle alone would not be something that ordinary people like them could withstand. I am afraid this city will be reduced to ruins. Garp, if you want to catch me, just come on. Crocodile transformed his body into a semi-elemental form, turned around and flew off in the opposite direction. The direction to the suburbs has recently been blocked by Cap, and Crocodile can only move deeper into the city in another direction, preferably to pass through here and reach the suburbs on the other side. Crocodile believed that as long as he was in the desert, he would not be afraid even if he was a naval hero. The area was filled with yellow sand at this time and visibility was extremely low, but Garp had already locked onto Crocodile using his observation hockey. Seeing Crocodile trying to escape, he immediately pushed his feet hard and chased after him using the moon step. Crocodile, you can't run away, Cap shouted as he chased. As expected of one of the strongest men in this world, every time he takes a moon step, he can cover a distance of dozens of meters. Speed is not Crocodile's strong point. He didn't even need to look back. He could clearly feel with his observation hockey that the old man who was like a ferocious beast was approaching at high speed. Damn it, if I keep going like this, he will catch up with me before I even fly out of the city. But at this point, he could only grit his teeth and fly madly. Finally, after flying for only 7 or 8 breaths, Garp had arrived behind Crocodile. "Boy, don't you want to know how hard my fist is? Then feel it for yourself." Before he could finish his words, Crocodile Observation Hockey had already seen that a pitch-black fist wrapped in armament hockey was coming towards his back. Crocodile heart suddenly tensed up. "I must block this punch. If he hits me in the back, I am afraid I will die here today." In a flash, Crocodile turned around and raised his arms, which were also covered in armament color, to block in front of him. Bang! Crocodile had just completed this action when he felt a huge force hitting his arms. He heard slight cracking sounds in his arms. Then, this force actually passed through Crocodile's arms and hit his chest. Crocodile was hit by a speeding train and was sent flying like a cannonball by the punch. "Fuck!" Crocodile groaned, and two swear words rarely came out of his mouth. "It too strong. Really too strong. I can't match it at all. How can I defeat such a monster?" This was the only question in Crocodile mind at this moment. The strongest man at the top of this world could hit an absolute critical hit with just a normal attack, which was even more outrageous than a big move. This punch sent Crocodile flying hundreds of meters away, and it finally stopped after smashing through 4 or 5 buildings. Fortunately, everyone in the city went to welcome him today. Otherwise, who knows how many innocent people would have been killed or injured. After Garp punched Crocodile, he walked towards the direction where Crocodile fell calmly, as if he had just hit a small insect. The smoke and dust cleared, and Crocodile struggled to get up after pushing away the broken bricks and tiles that were pressing on him. Ugh! A large amount of blood gushed out of his mouth, and it was obvious that he was seriously injured. "How does my fist taste now? Are you going to follow me obediently, or are you going to take another punch? If you do it again, you will die," Garp said calmly. Pooh! Crocodile spat out the blood in his mouth. At this moment, he looked extremely disheveled, with blood all over his head and face, and his suit and coat were torn in several places and covered with dirt. He casually took off his coat and threw it on the ground, and also took off the tie around his neck and threw it away. Crocodile chuckled, his face covered in blood making it look even more hideous. "Ah ha 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 ha, what a joke. I am Crocodile Ace. How could I easily admit defeat to an old man? Our battle has just begun." Before Crocodile could speak, he had already noticed that not far behind him was the endless desert of Alabasta. That is where he had the confidence to say such words to a person of Garp level. "Come on, Garp, let me show you my methods." Sand Crocodile, it not called that for nothing. After saying that, he rushed towards the desert behind him as fast as he could. Seeing this, Garp couldn't help but sigh. "Well, since you are not giving up, I will break your hands and feet and take you back. I am sure Sengoku won't be dissatisfied." Crocodile walked for miles into the desert before stopping and standing there waiting for Cap. Here, he has absolute confidence that even if he cannot defeat the opponent, Garp can't do anything to him. When Garp approached, Crocodile didn't say much and started attacking directly, because he knew very well that villains die because they talk too much. Big sandstorm. Crocodile raised his hand and created a desert storm that covered the sky. This move cannot hurt Garp. Crocodile purpose is only to affect the opponent vision as much as possible, even if it causes a little trouble to the opponent. Desert sunflower. Then Crocodile turned the battlefield within a kilometer radius of the two into a field of quicksand, leaving Garp with no place to comfortably settle. Cap was originally standing on the sand, and he felt that the desert under his feet seemed to be constantly dragging him down. If he did not leave in time, he would be buried in this endless desert. With no other options, Garp could only fly back into the sky using the moon step. Sand python. Crocodile 10 fingers danced continuously, and 10 giant pythons as thick as water tanks and made entirely of sand emerged from the sand beneath Cap and clung to him madly. This is a new move that Crocodile developed after the fruit awakened. Each of his fingers controls a sand python. Whenever the enemy is entangled by these giant snakes, Crocodile will immediately activate his life-devouring ability and suck the opponent into a dried corpse. As Crocodile fingers kept moving, These sand pythons seemed to have life and surrounded Cap in the sky from all directions. Garp's powerful observation hockey reminded him that the giant snakes in front of him were not as simple as they seemed. Even though he was invincible in close combat, he did not dare to take it lightly. With a fist wrapped in armed color domineering, he could blow these things up with one punch. However, every time Garp killed one, a new sand python would fly out from the desert and rejoin the battle, as if determined to fight the old man to the death. Although Garp is invincible in physical skills, he does not have the power of his fruit and does not have the ability to attack in groups. For the time being, he has no better way to deal with it and can only concentrate on fighting these sand pythons. Crocodile saw this and planned to consume Garp first. After all, he is an old man with white hair. No matter how strong he is, he will eventually run out of energy. After being entangled by Crocodile sand python for a long time, Garp gradually became irritated. Damn it, Crocodile knows he can't block my punches, so he doesn't dare to confront me head-on. These little bugs are really annoying. At the moment when Garp was distracted and thinking, one of the sand pythons controlled by Crocodile immediately seized the opportunity, dodged Garp's iron fist, and entangled his legs. Crocodile mouth curled up into a smile of success. Now, life-devouring Garp legs were entangled and he couldn't use the moon step, so he fell downwards instantly. At this moment, Crocodile ability was activated, and Garp felt his legs rapidly losing vitality. Not good. Garp was shocked, knowing that he had fallen into the trap of Crocodile. He quickly activated his armament hockey to cover his legs, isolating Crocodile ability from causing further damage to him, and then used a powerful punch to defeat the sand python that was entangled with his legs. However, how could Crocodile let go of such a good opportunity? He quickly controlled the other sand pythons to attack Garp. With no other choice, Garp had to cover his entire body with armament hockey and turn directly into a pitch-black statue. Garp covered his entire body with armament hockey, and now Crocodile couldn't do anything to him. No matter how hard the sand python pestered him, it couldn't hurt Garp at all, so he had to disperse the sand python temporarily. Cap escaped from the trap again and felt his legs were extremely weak, so he quickly lifted up his trouser legs. I saw that his originally strong legs had become several times thinner than before. As if he was terminally ill, his bones and flesh seemed to have completely lost all moisture, like two dry branches. However, this was not a huge loss to the naval hero. Garp snorted coldly, and his muscles began to move like a living thing. In the blink of an eye, the two legs had recovered. This is life restoration, right? It a really useful skill. Crocodile has really opened his eyes today and has already added this magical skill to his shopping cart. Crocodile, if this is the only trick you have, you'd better surrender as soon as possible. Garp's voice was now full of coldness. It seemed that the previous battle made him a little angry. Haha, Vice Admiral Garp, don't you understand now? In this endless desert, I can't beat you, but you can't beat me either, Crocodile said with a chuckle. He wasn't panicking at all right now. Really? Then I will let you know clearly today that the devil fruit ability you are so proud of is nothing but a piece of shit in front of real strength. It will collapse at the first touch. As Garp finished speaking, Crocodile had a bad feeling in his heart. The old man rushed towards him regardless of anything. Desert Great Sword, Desert Diamond Sword, Desert Artillery. After being upgraded by Crocodile, the fruit ability that was completely wrapped in armament hockey attacked the old man who was approaching him one after another. However, all of Crocodile attacks were easily deflected by Garp at the moment before they hit him, and shot to other places. Even if an attack hit Garp's body, it would only tear his white military uniform and could not cause him any harm at all, just like a human-shaped beast. The battlefield around the two men was like being carpet-bombed. Huge sand dunes were constantly hit, exploded and burst. Damn it, there's no way I can break his defense. I now finally understand firsthand the feeling of powerlessness that Luffy felt when fighting Kaido. As Cap got closer, Crocodile began to feel alarmed. While retreating, he threw all kinds of skills at Garp as if they were free. That enough, Kid, what Crocodile didn't expect was that when he was still 20 meters away from him, Garp actually used the razor from the 6 styles of the Navy. Unlike the fancy moves used by CP9, Garp razor is so fast that even Crocodile observation hockey cannot fully capture it. He only felt a white afterimage coming towards him, but it was too late to dodge. Crocodile subconsciously covered the entire front of his body with hockey, and then punched forward with all his strength. Because he knew that shaving could only be most effective in a straight line, he could only take Garp punch head on. However, with shave super acceleration, not everyone can withstand Garp unparalleled powerful punch. In this world, the only people who dare to say that they can withstand Garp full strength attack are probably the 4 emperors, the 3 admirals, plus Sengoku, Dragon, Hawkeye and a dozen others. The moment their fists touched, black and purple lightning burst violently between them. Crocodile is still far from perfect after all, and it can be said that it is on the verge of collapse. He only felt a force countless times more powerful than the first time, bombarding his right fist. The whole arm suddenly lost all feeling. The person was thrown out like a rag doll. After this full-strength attack, Garp let out a light breath, stopped and wiped the sweat from his forehead. What a difficult kid. I don't know if I beat him to death just now. Judging from his past experience, Crocodile should no longer be able to fight. Taking the moon step again, Garp began to look for Crocodile. The attack just now did indeed send Crocodile quite far away. However, Cap searched through more than a dozen sand dunes around him but still couldn't find Crocodile. Oh no. Could this kid have burrowed into the sand and escaped? Garp stroked his gray beard. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was a possibility. Garp, who was thinking, didn't notice at all that in the sand dune behind him, a huge hand as tall as a person was slowly emerging and grabbing him silently. This hand comes from Crocodile, who uses sand to create a huge and heavy armor for himself, and his arms are completely wrapped in armed color domineering, directly turning into a sand giant. Just now, Crocodile, who was sent flying far away by Garp critical hit, activated the ability of his awakened fruit and his body sank directly into the desert. With the help of his ability, the sand continued to repair Garp's body that was severely injured. As he blended into the desert, his senses were rapidly amplified, and everything moving within 100 miles was visible to him. Various creatures hidden in the desert and underground rivers flowing continuously. Even 100 meters below him, there was an indescribable amount of black viscous substance, which was most likely the liquid gold oil that had not yet been discovered by this world. At this moment, he gained a deeper understanding of his own abilities. The connection with the sand is becoming closer and closer. An idea suddenly came to Crocodile's mind, and he thought that since his body could not block Garp fist, he might as well let the sand become a part of his body to block Garp iron fist for him. The sand itself has the effect of buffering and absorbing energy, and even if it is shattered by the opponent fist, in this endless sea of sand, as long as his strength is not exhausted, he can continue to fight against Garp head-on. Having enhanced his physical strength to a high level, he is no worse than any top strong man in this regard. Crocodile named this form Desert Emperor because he tried his best to suppress his hostility towards Garp. Garp observation hockey did not give out any warning at all. I got you. Just as Garp reacted, Crocodile used the fastest speed in his life to grab the brave old man in his hand. Cap was shocked and began to struggle desperately. However, his arms were tightly grasped by Crocodile and he couldn't exert any strength at all. It was not easy to break free from those huge hands filled with armed color domineering. Garp, you really hurt me just now. Now it's my turn, Crocodile said, then used his other fist to punch the Garp in his hand again and again. Garp could only protect himself by covering his head with armament hockey. However, the giant that Crocodile turned into was more than 10 meters tall and extremely strong, and each of his punches was more than 1,000 pounds of force. Garp's head was like a thick iron nail, and it made a clanging sound when it was hit by Crocodile. Even though Garp had high defense and thick blood, He was still a little dizzy for a moment. "Damn it, let me go." Garp has experienced countless battles in his life and has seen all kinds of cruel scenes. But Crocodile move made him feel unprecedented humiliation, and the old man was so angry that he screamed. Just when Crocodile thought he could capture Garp, the old man decades of rich combat experience taught Crocodile a vivid lesson. When Crocodile was about to punch Garp hand to the ground, Garp actually seized this opportunity, kicked his legs to the ground with all his strength, and used the shave again. The power of this kick contained all of Garp's anger, and Crocodile Big Hand was completely unable to control it. An extremely brutal headbutt hit Crocodile face like a cannonball. Even though Crocodile head was protected by sand and armament color, he was still dizzy and saw stars from the impact. The hand holding Garp began to loosen, and the old man took the opportunity to escape. "Crocodile, you have succeeded in irritating me." Garp's face was gloomy and he looked a little embarrassed at this time. His clothes were tattered and there were traces of blood on the corners of his mouth and forehead. But this injury is obviously nothing to him. "Garp, I told you that you can't defeat me in the desert." Crocodile was also really angry and roared in rage. After the two men had spoken harshly, they immediately resumed the fierce fight. This time, Crocodile didn't dodge and started a straightforward fight with Garp. The armed color domineering collided mercilessly again and again, bursting out countless black thunder and lightning. The aftermath of the battle between the two men swept across the surrounding desert, setting off an overwhelming desert storm. Although Garp was much stronger than Crocodile, each of his punches could break a large chunk of the Desert Emperor body. However, Crocodile, who was at his absolute home turf, had an endless supply of sand to use, and could repair the damaged parts of Garp in an instant. The two of them kept fighting each other from noon to afternoon, and neither could do anything to the other. Just as the sky was getting a little dark, a large group of people seemed to be rushing towards here from the end of the desert, stirring up countless smoke and dust. The people who came were divided into two groups, and the two groups were clearly separated. A group of Navy soldiers riding camels. The other group was led by Vivi and Kosa, and consisted of Alabasta civilians riding various desert vehicles. The two groups saw from a distance that a large amount of sand and dust was being stirred up in the center of the desert. They knew without thinking that it must be Garp fighting Crocodile. Currently in this country, apart from these two people, there is probably no third person who can cause such a catastrophic scene in a fight. As everyone got closer, they finally saw clearly that a white-haired old man who looked like a beggar was fighting desperately with a giant made of sand. The huge and dull sound caused by the collision of armament hockey can be heard from a long distance away. "Are you kidding?" The Navy men couldn't accept the scene before them. Although many of them had followed Garp for many years, except for Garp Adjutant Bogart, they had never seen anyone who could fight with this legendary navy to this extent. In 90% of cases, the old man could resolve the battle by simply throwing the shells in his hands directly at the target. They rarely see situations where Cap needs to personally engage in hand-to-hand combat. Vivi was also shocked to find out that her former boss was so powerful. At this moment, she was even thinking whether she should find an opportunity to thank him for not killing her on behalf of Luffy and his crew. Vice Admiral Garp, stop, don't fight anymore. The sailors did not dare to approach the battlefield between the two, for fear of being hurt by the aftermath of the fight, and began shouting from a distance. Garp didn't expect that there was someone talking to him in this remote place, and he turned his head in confusion. Crocodile was so engrossed in the fight that he didn't notice the noises coming from the surroundings, and took the opportunity to punch the old man hard again. "Asshole, stop, I am hungry, take a break first," Garp shouted at Crocodile angrily, not feeling embarrassed at all. In his opinion, these guys under his command must have come to bring him food. Crocodile heard this and stopped moving, looking in the direction Garp was facing. I could see Vivi's beautiful blue hair from a distance. Among them seemed to be Mr. Gardino and others, who were disguised and mixed in the team. So he also dissipated the form of Desert Emperor, stood there panting and waiting for the other party to come. "What up, are you here to bring me dinner? Bring it out quickly." "I am starving. After I finish eating, I still have to continue fighting with this guy, Garp shouted carelessly at the approaching Navy soldiers, not caring at all about his disheveled appearance and the scars on his face. Lieutenant General Garp, Marshal Sengoku called and ordered you to stop the capture operation of Crocodile, Adjutant Bogart said loudly after approaching. What has Sengoku gotten senile and lost his temper? How can we let a man as evil as Crocodile go so easily? Garp shouted angrily. Bring the Den Den Mushi here, I want to ask him myself. Bogart handed the Den Den Mushi over helplessly, and the call was connected soon after. Sengoku, what going on? Why do you want to stop capturing Crocodile? Garp asked angrily. Garp, come back. This is the order from the 5 elders, Sengoku said calmly on the other end of the phone. The angry expression on Garp's face froze after hearing this. After a moment of silence, Garp said in a deep voice, I refuse. Then he hung up the phone. Hello Garp, Sengoku shouted at the Den Den Mushi with a grim face, but there was no sound from the other end. Garp, his old problem has come back again. Sengoku was helpless, but he had no way to deal with the naval flag. Vivi and Kosa had come to Crocodile with a large group of people. Looking at Crocodile's current appearance, Vivi couldn't help but feel frightened, because Crocodile looks much worse than Garp. His physical strength had obviously reached its limit and he could only hunch over and gasp for breath. One of his left eyes was so swollen that he couldn't open it, and his face was covered with scars and bruises. The shirt had disappeared without a trace at some point, revealing his muscular body. However, this body was also covered with bruises. He was also coughing up blood, obviously suffering from severe internal injuries. Although Crocodile has activated the Desert Emperor state, he has double protection for himself. In addition, sand itself has the function of absorbing energy and reducing shock. It stands to reason that Crocodile defense at this point is already extremely strong. However, Garp is Garp after all, and each of his domineering punches has unparalleled penetrating power. Even through the heavy desert armor, he could attack directly into Crocodile flesh. Crocodile knew that this was the effect of Ruzakura. As for why Garp didn't use the Conqueror Haki, was it because Crocodile was not worthy of it, or was it that Garp simply didn't know how to do it? However, the old man's physical strength was really abnormal. He was about to turn 80 years old, but after fighting with him for a long time, he did not show any signs of fatigue. He was just hungry. Garp was taking food from the Navy and starting to replenish his strength. Judging from his tone just now, it seemed that he was not going to let Crocodile go. Crocodile couldn't help but feel angry. The trouble that Crocodile had caused for him was really a headache. Ahem. What are you doing here? Crocodile raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth and asked Vivi. Of course I came to rescue you. My father has already contacted the world government and asked them to order the Navy not to capture you. Vivi said. Why not let them take me away? Isn't this what you have always wanted? Crocodile asked, looking straight into Vivi's eyes. Because of what you have done in the past few days, every citizen of Alabasta has seen the hope of rebirth. Vivi also looked directly into Crocodile's eyes and said firmly, they need you. However, this naval hero doesn't seem to intend to let me go. Crocodile looked at Garp, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground not far away and stuffing food into his mouth frantically, and shook his head with a wry smile. Master Crocodile, no matter what you have done before, but now, they can't take you away unless they step over our dead bodies. Kasha has a very high prestige among the people of Alabasta. As soon as he finished his highly inflammatory words, the people who accompanied him immediately became excited. Navy, get out of Alabasta. We will never let you take Master Crocodile away, even if we die. When the pirates attacked us, only Crocodile-sama protected us. Where was your navy? Where was your navy when we had no water for 3 years due to drought? Why did your navy suddenly show up to capture Lord Crocodile when he just brought hope to this country? If you take him away, we will never have water to drink again. The people of Alastan shouted angrily at the navy in front of them, constantly complaining about their dissatisfaction with the navy. Seeing how excited the people of Alabasta were, Garp stopped what he was doing. He listened carefully to what everyone said with a serious face. After a long moment, Cap stared at Crocodile with a burning gaze and said sternly, I am afraid you don't know yet, but the dancing powder was brought to this country by the man in front of you, right? Don't be fooled by him again. You are talking nonsense. King Cobra has admitted many times in public that the dancing powder was his fault. Why do you want to slander a national hero based on hearsay? Do you think it is justice for your navy to arrest people at will? I don't know who said this, but suddenly, Carp was speechless for a moment. Does he have solid evidence that Crocodile committed a crime? It seems that he does not have one yet. All their knowledge of Crocodile crimes came from a tip-off call from Captain Smoker of the Navy branch. The Baroque Works Company, led by Crocodile, seems to have always existed as a bounty hunter guild, basically catching pirates, even if they make mistakes, as long as they are not too extreme, as Shichibukai with certain privileges. They can be tolerated by the Navy. Is there any hidden story here? Is there any misunderstanding at this time? Carp's thoughts began to become confused. He even wondered if there was a possibility that Cobra, who confessed his crime in public, was coerced by Crocodile or even impersonated by someone else. If this is the case, then this man's scheming is too terrifying. In addition, even he felt that this sand crocodile had a formidable strength, and it was possible that it would grow into a giant crocodile that could swallow the sky in the future. Garp stood up, brushed the sand off his body, and walked slowly towards Crocodile. Crocodile watched his every move closely, fearing that the old man would suddenly attack and hurt him again. The people around Crocodile were even more nervous than him. Many of them actually bypassed him and stood in front of him, trying to stop Garp. Garp finally stopped a few steps away from the crowd, without any other action, and just spoke to Crocodile righteously. Crocodile, I can let you go today, but you'd better take the citizens of this country seriously. If I find out one day that you have done something to hurt them, even if you become the Pirate King, I will capture you no matter where you are. Crocodile heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing this, and he finally got through the crisis today. The people under my rule will of course take care of themselves, so there's no need for you, an old man, to worry about it. Crocodile did not give in at all. HMPH, let go. Garp snorted coldly and left with the Navy. When the people surrounding Crocodile saw Garp leading his men away, they immediately cheered as if they had won. After Crocodile completely relaxed his body and mind, his mental and physical strength reached the limit and he could no longer hold on. His eyes went dark and he fell backwards. Early morning on the Moby Dick. Dad, big news. Vice Admiral Garp and Shichibukai Crocodile fought fiercely in Alabasta for half a day, but in the end, there was no winner. The reason for the fight between the two sides is unknown. Whitebeard, with 4 tubes inserted all over his body, was resting with his eyes closed on the deck. Marco suddenly ran over shouting and holding a newspaper. Whitebeard opened his eyes casually, took the newspaper handed to him by Marco, and read the contents silently. There was also a photo on the front page of the newspaper, which showed Cap, with his face covered in blood, confronting Crocodile, with his face bruised and swollen, across the crowd. Coolala. This kid Crocodile was able to escape unscathed from facing Garp. It really impressive. Whitebeard laughed loudly towards the sky, but then his face turned serious. He challenged me that year, and after he failed, I caught him and used him as a hook. I guess he still holds a grudge against you. If you meet him alone, you must be careful. Anyone who can confront Garp head-on must not be underestimated. Marco shouted nonchalantly. Dad, you are making a fuss about nothing. They are just the 7 warlords of the sea. We are the Whitebeard pirates. Garp is too old, and his strength is bound to decline seriously. There a saying that goes young and strong are better than the weak. It's normal that he can't beat the young man. Idiot. Upon hearing this, Whitebeard was so angry that he immediately gave Marco a punch of love. That the strongest Navy man, Garp, the man who chased Roger to where he had nowhere to hide. He is about the same age as me. Don't you even think highly of my strength? You little brats have no idea how dazzling that man was in the Valley of Gods back then. While Whitebeard was scolding his not-so-bright son, his thoughts had unconsciously drifted to decades ago. That was a terrifying battle that even the gods trembled with. Marineford, Naval Headquarters. In Marshal Sengoku office, The three generals gathered together, which was a rare occasion. Garp had not reported the details of the capture of Crocodile in Alabasta the day before. However, this morning newspaper surprised Sengoku. Could it be that Crocodile, a nobody whom he once looked down upon, really possessed an ability that even Garp was helpless against? That would be too scary. This is a combat capability that is enough to influence the world situation, so he cannot help but take it seriously. After thinking it over, Sengoku couldn't help but call Garp. Hey, Garp, what happened with your fight with Crocodile yesterday? What is his true strength? Garp picked his nose and said with a relaxed look, "It just that I wanted to capture him alive, so I didn't use my full strength." You mean, you didn't try your best at that time? Sengoku was relieved to hear him say that. It seemed that the actual situation was not as bad as he expected. If I had used all my strength, he would have been killed by me. They are just Shichibukai. Even if they are killed, it won't cause too bad an impact. You are still too merciful. Sengoku was obviously dissatisfied with the way Garp handled the matter. Killing the suspect before trial is not the justice I uphold, Sengoku, Garp replied in a deep voice. Well, now that things have come to this, the arrest of this person can only end here. However, Crocodile has been able to fight you for such a long time without being defeated. His strength is worthy of the Navy headquarters' attention. Sengoku knew Garp's bottom line, so he could only sigh helplessly and then hung up the phone. What do you think of Crocodile? Sengoku asked the three generals sitting side by side on the sofa. A pirate who can fight with old man Garp is really scary. It better to be careful with this kind of monster, Kizaru said slowly, pretending to be surprised. Crocodile is a capable and ambitious person. Keeping him around is always a hidden danger. It's best to kill him in the cradle as soon as possible while he's still a fledgling. I think that if necessary, we can send 2 admirals at the same time to recapture Crocodile, or even kill him on the spot. Okayanu's face was full of viciousness. As for pirates, he always wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible. A powerful Shichibukai is a great help in maintaining the stability of the Grand Line. With them, the Navy can project more power into the New World. But we must not relax our precautions at all. The existing Shichibukai are cooperating with us quite well. My idea is to strengthen surveillance. If Crocodile really does something dangerous, we will strike back with thunder. Aokiji was as calm as ever, and there was not much to fault with what he said. As the next successor to the Navy admiral that Sengoku had always favored, Aokiji's ideas coincided with his own, which made him very satisfied. Then let do as Aokiji said and temporarily increase surveillance on Alabasta. Sengoku made the final decision. Alabasta. In a luxuriously decorated bedroom, Crocodile slowly opened his eyes, only to feel pain, weakness, and hunger filling his entire body. My left arm felt a little numb, as if something was pressing on it. When I turned around, I saw a head full of sapphire blue hair, sleeping soundly on the side of the bed. It turned out to be Vivi, which was a bit surprising for Crocodile. I never thought that after I fainted, it was she who took care of me. He pulled his arm out so as not to wake the sleeping girl. Crocodile sat up, holding his still aching head, and found himself wrapped in white bandages. Thinking back to the fierce battle yesterday, Crocodile still felt a little scared. Even though having complete home field advantage might seem opportunistic, being able to fight the naval hero to that extent was enough to satisfy him. However, even though his devil fruit has awakened its power, its survivability is good when facing a truly strong opponent, but its lack of lethality is very obvious. Is it possible that this fruit of mine can only be developed to this extent? Hockey is still not strong enough. Facing a monster like Garp, the result of not knowing Ryo and Hockey is that you can only injure the opponent's skin even if you are exhausted to the point of vomiting blood. After all, he is still poor. If he had enough Baileys to upgrade these skills to the highest level, he would not be afraid of anyone even if he left the desert. He can even learn other people fruit abilities and other people fighting skills. For example, Roger Divine Avoidance, Kaido Thunder Bagua, and Big Mom Wago. Crocodile could not wait to see how exciting the other party expressions would be when he used the famous skills of these top masters. While Crocodile was thinking, Vivi seemed to feel that the thing under her head was gone. She felt a little uncomfortable and got up to rub her eyes. "You are awake. The doctor said you have multiple fractures all over your body. You can't move around. But you must be hungry, right? Do you want to eat something? Do you want to drink some water?" Vivi saw that Crocodile had woken up and couldn't help but ask with concern. Crocodile said weakly, "I am a little hungry. Please prepare more food for me." "Then you wait. I will go find someone to prepare it. Don't move around while I am away," Vivi warned seriously. "Thank you, Vivi," Crocodile said sincerely. Vivi ran around for a long time to stop Garp, and then stayed by his side to take care of him, which made Crocodile feel very warm in his heart. "Humphrey, I am taking care of you so that you can recover quickly and serve the citizens of Alabasta well. Please don't misunderstand anything." Vivi felt very incredible to hear a word of thank you from Crocodile, the heartless pirate, and her body, which was about to leave, paused. However, women hearts are as unpredictable as the sea. For some reason, this girl face changed in an instant, revealing an extremely arrogant expression. Crocodile couldn't help but smile bitterly at her. After Vivi left, Crocodile remembered the life return that Garp used yesterday, and this ability seemed to be very useful for recovering from injuries. "So I quickly entered the Xeon training camp to look up information about this ability." Life returned, 30 million Baileys, such a practical skill, and the price was so reasonable. Crocodile decisively clicked to buy it. In addition, Crocodile thought of several skills in the 6 types of the Navy that were also very useful, so he checked them out as well. "If the skills can be purchased separately, I would like to learn the shaving and moon step." However, the result of the search was Navy Type 6, 30 million Baileys. This made Crocodile feel a little upset. Iron blocks, paper paintings, mist kicks, and finger guns were all useless to him and were completely useless. But then he thought, if he had learned the 6 moves and taught them to his subordinates, it would only cost 15 million Baileys. You can train the CP9 with just this little money, which seems like a good deal no matter how you think about it. He could even strengthen Baroque Works mid-level agents and billionaires in batches. This is definitely a force that cannot be ignored. Although Baroque Works' main job was to capture pirates as a bounty hunter, it was actually an intelligence agency established by Crocodile in secret. The entire first half of the Grand Line is covered with this company intelligence network. After the Judicial Island incident, Crocodile is sure to take CP9, led by Rob Lucci, into its fold. At that time, these elite spies trained by the world government will lead the intelligence system of Baroque Works. Crocodile tentacles hidden in the darkness will surely reach every corner of the world in a short time, because Crocodile knows that powerful force is only one element in overthrowing this corrupt world regime. Inexhaustible money and an all-pervasive intelligence network are the keys among the keys. After learning these 2 skills, Crocodile looked at his personal assets. With less than 200 million yuan remaining, it was obviously a drop in the bucket to improve his strength, so he had no choice but to withdraw from the training camp. Vivi hasn't arrived yet. Crocodile is sitting on the bed feeling a little bored. He uses his observation hockey to find that there seem to be a few people outside the door, so he struggled to get out of bed and walked outside. When he opened the door, he saw his subordinates lying on the floor of the corridor and snoring. Gardena leaned cross-legged against the wall, while the huge MR4, Bibu, lay directly on the ground as a meat cushion. Golden Week, Marian, and Merry Christmas, Dorothy, both slept soundly on his fat belly. Looking at this loving scene in front of him, Crocodile was hesitating whether to wake them up. Vivi was already leading 2 food trucks towards this side. The 2 looked at each other. One had an unnatural expression, while the other looked a little angry. "Didn't I tell you not to move around? Why did you come outside the door?" Vivi said angrily with her hands on her hips. The 4 people sleeping in the aisle were also startled by the lion roar and immediately sat up. "Are you kidding? How dare Ms. Wednesday talk to the boss like that?" Gardena looked shocked. Merry Christmas, Dorothy, looked confused, as if he hadn't figured out what was going on. MR4, Beb, opened his mouth wide and his face was covered with cold sweat. "Golden Week, Marian, was smiling and watching the scene with great interest. Crocodile said nonchalantly, "My injury is not as serious as the doctor said." "You are making a big fuss out of nothing." Vivi didn't say anything when she heard that. She just put her hands on her hips and glared at him angrily. She looked very cute. Okay. Crocodile had no choice but to turn around and go into the house. But then he stuck his head out again. "Hey, you guys, come in and have something to eat." Of course Golden Week, Marian, took the lead, put her hands behind her back and skipped into Crocodile house. Okay, Boss Gardino followed closely obediently. Ermar 4, Bibu, and Merry Christmas, Dorothy, the old partners, looked at each other and followed behind in tacit understanding. "Now that you mention it, I actually feel a little hungry." Dorothy patted his fat belly and spoke as fast as ever. Everyone sat around a table covered with food. No one dared to eat before Crocodile started eating. Their eyes kept glancing at Crocodile face intentionally or unintentionally. "Why are you all looking at me? Pick up some food," Crocodile said without paying any attention to others, picked up the plate and poured it into his mouth. Before anyone could start, the food on the table disappeared at lightning speed. Crocodile belly expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, and soon its belly was as big as a cow. Everyone stared at Crocodile actions in amazement, and no one dared to snatch the food from him. Hey, are you possessed by Luffy?" Vivi shouted in dissatisfaction. The whole table of food was eaten up by Crocodile in no time. He then patted his stomach in satisfaction, his whole body shook, and the life return started. My stomach contracted quickly again as if by magic, and after a few breaths, it returned to normal as if nothing had happened. After eating these things, Crocodile finally felt that his strength had been restored a little, and even the injuries on his body were healed a lot. Life restoration is indeed a magical skill. Crocodile couldn't help but exclaim. "Vivi, please prepare 10 more servings of the same food as before," Crocodile said with a long sigh of relief. "Who can eat so much?" Vivi stared at Crocodile with suspicion. "I just ate a little bit." "Besides, you didn't eat either, did you?" Crocodile said as a matter of course. Crocodile spent the morning eating non-stop. As for the fact that Crocodile was eating, the other people in the room were shocked at first, then gradually accepted it, and finally became completely numb. When Crocodile finished the last plate of food, he finally felt fully revived. He stood up and tore off all the bandages on his head and body, revealing his intact face and muscular body. "The wound hasn't healed yet. How can you take off the bandage?" Vivi saw Crocodile actions and was about to stop him, but it was too late. "You may not believe this, but as long as I have enough food, I can recover quickly no matter how badly I am injured," Crocodile said as he moved his body. "Even if I fight with Garp again right now, there won't be any problem." "HMPH, you have been beaten black and blue by an old man, so don't try to be tough here." Vivi pouted and couldn't help but sneered. Crocodile was not angry when he heard her say that. I don't know why, but he was surprisingly good-tempered when facing this little girl. "Now that you are full, go get some work done, but there are a lot of people waiting for water." Crocodile put on the clothes Vivi had prepared in advance and said to everyone. Crocodile led the way out of the courtyard where they lived, where many residents had already gathered at the door. They were all waiting for Crocodile, and some even placed flowers outside the yard, praying that Crocodile would recover soon. Crocodile appearance instantly perked up everyone, with surprise written all over their faces. "Master Crocodile, I am so glad you are okay." "Master Crocodile, I didn't expect you to recover so quickly. We were all very worried about you." As expected of the hero of Alabasta, even the heroes of the Navy can't defeat him. Crocodile knew that not many of these people really cared about him as a person. In fact, they were more worried about whether he could live a better life. However, isn't it the same for him? Making this country prosperous and revive is also for his own benefit. Only when the country becomes prosperous and strong will he have more money to strengthen himself and realize his ambitions. Crocodile waved to the people around him. "Thank you for your concern. I have fully recovered." We are about to set off now to open up a new water source for everyone, but the scene will be quite dangerous, so just stay home and wait. and don't follow us. As Crocodile gradually integrates into this world, his mentality is constantly changing. Unlike a cold-blooded tyrant like Crocodile, Crocodile sees himself more as a boss with a human touch. Whether it is Baroque orcs or everyone in Alabasta, they are all his employees. His relationship with all these people is not one of cold exploitation, but rather one of mutual achievement. Therefore, except for the time when he first enters this world, in order to avoid being seen as a fake by others, he must act like Crocodile original behavior and language, which makes him seem less human. Crocodile is constantly adjusting the way he relates to everyone. Because he is who he is, Crocodile is Crocodile. Apart from this body and devil fruit, they are two completely different people with different personalities and ways of thinking. Except for Vivi, the subordinates seem to find it difficult to accept that their boss suddenly became gentle. But there is no other way. Maybe they will get used to it slowly. The group came to the middle of the two cities of Rapeseed and Catlia. The two cities are not far apart, and the area in between is covered by thick desert. However, there is a big mountain to the north of each city, which blocks more sand from flowing here. Therefore, the sand here is relatively thin and easier to deal with. Crocodile decided to use the large-scale skill of sandstorm to sweep all the sand in the area into the deep sea. Only flat and thick land is suitable for building a city. It is also easier to find water sources. Standing on the sand dunes and looking to the south, the blue sea is just a few miles away. The water there is deep enough, making it ideal for building a new port. Crocodile was very happy with the place he had chosen. Gardino, there will be a huge sandstorm and tornado soon. Stay away and use your power to build a house for everyone to stay in for a while. I will call you when it's done. Crocodile instructed his men. Oh, okay, boss. Gardino nodded in agreement. Then he casually threw out a large group of white candles, and an igloo-shaped hut took shape instantly. After everyone entered the house, Crocodile began his work. He stretched out his right hand, and a small tornado appeared in his hand. If Shillin's skill is used well, it can destroy the world. But it is only limited to desert areas, and it basically doesn't work outside Alabasta. Moreover, it takes too long to reach a certain scale, and I can't think of any other uses for Crocodile except blowing sand off the ground. Originally, Crocodile couldn't control it after it was formed, but now that the fruit has awakened, Crocodile has full control over this skill and can command it to go anywhere. He casually threw the small tornado in his palm to the ground, and the tornado, sucking in endless yellow sand, expanded rapidly. Begin to sweep the entire nearby coastline. Feeling a little slow, Crocodile threw out 3 more sandstorms in succession. The dozens of square kilometers of desert surrounding Crocodile immediately turned into a scene similar to a natural disaster. 4 super tornadoes, each hundreds of meters high, raged continuously, ravaging every inch of sand here. Residents of the 2 nearby cities could see the horrific scene from a distance and were terrified. They are afraid that these ridiculously large tornadoes will sweep into their cities and cause catastrophic consequences. However, what they couldn't see was that in the middle of this sandstorm, there was a man standing there smoking a cigar boldly. There seemed to be an invisible barrier around him, and no wind or sand could get close to him. The violent tornado that could easily destroy a city couldn't even blow up a corner of his clothes. The strong wind blew for 3 hours before Crocodile controlled the tornado and flew into the deep sea. Looking around, the sand within a radius of dozens of miles seemed to have been sucked by a vacuum cleaner, and the entire horizon seemed to have sunk more than 10 meters. Looking around, it all flat land. No trace of the desert. Why not just rename Shilin as a sweeping robot? It sweeps really well. Crocodile couldn't help but complain. He walked over to the cabin of Gardino and the others using the newly learned moon steps and knocked on the shell. An archway immediately appeared in the hut, revealing the figures of several people. Oh my god, where is this? Gardino asked in surprise, looking at the unfamiliar environment around him. Of course it where you have been. Where else could it be? Crocodile said unhappily. Wow, That amazing, Vivi murmured in shock as she looked at the surroundings that had been completely changed beyond recognition. The boss method is simply like a miracle. Duo Luofai was also stunned, but looked at the man in front of him with admiration, who was smoking a cigar, with stars in his eyes. Marian, I have a task for you, Crocodile said to Golden Week, who was standing aside and eating senbai obediently. I will make a sandbox of the Eden City planning that I conceived here. This sand table is a bit rough. I need you to use your brush to depict this city. You can add your own ideas, but there are two characteristics that need to be highlighted. First, it must have a style that is unique to Alabasta. The second point is luxury. We need to make these buildings look more noble than the royal palace. Such a small request should be easy for a talented painter like you, right boss? Really? Marian pointed at herself with a look of surprise. Do you really want me to design this city? When have I ever broken my word? Crocodile said, puffing out a puff of smoke. That great, long live the boss! Marian jumped up happily. After saying this, Crocodile stretched out his hands and countless yellow sand flew out of his hands. A sand table with richer content is slowly generated on the flat ground like 3D printing. In order to make Marianne more aware of his intentions, Crocodile did not forget to explain to her the purposes of some important buildings one by one. These places are hotels of different grades, providing temporary accommodation for tourists. There's a big shopping mall here in the city center. This is a casino, and it must be designed to be extremely luxurious. I plan to name it the Royal Casino. I hope to build a water park near the sea. Next to it is a bathing center that integrates bathing, massage and leisure. Bath center? What a novel name. What does it do? Marian asked innocently, biting her finger. Stupid, you can guess it from the name. Of course, it's a place to take a bath. After it built, we can go and experience it together, Vivi said as a matter of course. Yeah, okay. Marian looked expectant. Crocodile mouth twitched, and he didn't know how to explain it to the two minors. His bathing center is not a place suitable for all ages, be they pirates, nobles or wealthy people. They are not just guys who only know how to eat meat and drink. Don't even think about it. That's not a place for children to go. Crocodile scolded the two little girls righteously. Nonsense. I am not a child anymore. Vivi straightened her arms, which were no less proud than those of an adult, and retorted in an unhappy tone. Ahem. This is an entertainment center with great music and dancing. It will definitely become the favorite entertainment place for young people. Really? The two little girls' attention was instantly diverted, and their eyes seemed to be shining with golden stars. Crocodile finally breathed a sigh of relief. That right, I will definitely not let you down after it repaired. There is a hospital here, an arena here, and an opera house here. The rest of the land will be used to build high-end residential buildings for rent or sale. In short, any project that can make money must be available in this city. What kind of structure is this sky brain? He can think of so many things. I really want to open it and study it, Vivi complained silently in her heart. Okay, that's all I can think of for now. If you have any good ideas later, please continue to add to them. Next, let's get to work. Gardino and I will dig another artificial lake together. Bibu, cooperate with Dorothy to dig 2 underground waterways connecting the artificial lake and the 2 nearby cities, so that residents can get water directly from the wells in the city. Okay, boss. Everyone agreed quickly. What about me? What should I do? Vivi put her head in front of Crocodile and pointed at her nose and asked, aren't you here to monitor me? Of course you can just watch. Crocodile couldn't help but teasing Vivi again. Is that so? Vivi immediately lowered her head with a dejected look on her face, feeling so useless. She really wants to do something to help the people of this country, but as things stand, there is really no job she can do. However, Crocodile had actually already arranged what she could do in his mind. Now that manpower was so tight, how could he let go of any available labor force? Seeing that the purpose of teasing Vivi had been achieved, he slowly said, if you really think you are too idle, there is an important matter that needs your attention. What the matter? Tell me quickly. Vivi stared at Crocodile mouth, her eyes full of desire. This list is the heads and contact information of Baroque works in various places in Alabasta. I need you to connect with them and transfer the citizens who want to migrate here as soon as possible. Also, go to the city and tell Kosa that we also need to recruit a large number of people from the 2 nearby cities. We will take as many as we can. After all, it would be a pipe dream for us to build a city with just a few of us. We are in dire need of people here. Vivi's eyes rolled around when she heard that. Isn't this what she is best at? She quickly agreed with a look of joy. Just wait for my good news. He ran towards the rapeseed city without looking back. Crocodile is now quite familiar with the task of digging lakes to get water. Gardino also cooperated very well with him. One was digging the hole and the other was applying the wax, and the progress was very rapid. It took the two of them only 3 hours to create an artificial lake that was several times larger than Yuba. The clear groundwater fills the entire lake. The 2 old partners, Dorothy and Beb, acted even faster. They dug up all the wells in the city early on and connected them to the lake. Residents who received the news in advance have been waiting by their own wells. When you see clear drinking water gradually rising from the well that has been dry for years, countless people were so excited that they cried tears of joy, and some even cried with their heads in their hands. They all shouted, "Long live Lord Crocodile!" At this moment, everyone wanted to treat Crocodile as their reborn parent. Their lives finally have hope. After working hard for an afternoon, everyone returned to Rapeseed City and rested for a night. The next morning, Crocodile summoned his men, Kosa, Vivi and the accompanying officials. Building a city is a huge undertaking involving countless tedious matters that must be discussed in advance in meetings. Fortunately, Alabasta is a country with a population of over 10 million and there is no shortage of talented people. Many of the officials that Crocodile brought with him on this trip possessed this ability. Crocodile was only responsible for leading his men to complete the construction of the core buildings. There are dedicated people to take charge of other decoration and installation, landscaping, and pipeline network construction. Kosa was very efficient in his work. He managed to clearly count the available manpower in the 2 nearby cities by category in just one night. Vivi also did a good job. People from other cities who wanted to move here also set off early this morning. This was an order from Lord Crocodile, and everyone was responding positively, with many people eager to bring their families along to join the battle. Crocodile also notified MR1 and others who were still guarding the huge sum of money in Albania and asked them to escort the funds over. Now, it officially time to start spending money. After everything was arranged, Crocodile led everyone to the construction site. Holding the city plan drawn by Marianne in his hand, Crocodile flew into the sky on the moon steps. According to the data marked on the drawings in advance, Crocodile waved his hand and erected countless sand walls on the flat land. The roads and places where houses are to be built are all separated in an orderly manner to avoid uncontrollable chaos later. After doing this, Crocodile took Gardino to the edge of the city, where he would first build a large residential area. Because a large number of immigrants are about to arrive, the accommodation problem of these people must be solved first, otherwise it will easily cause chaos. He believes that a 6-story building is a more reasonable height, as he does not have to consider too many issues regarding load-bearing and building structure. After the awakening of the Gardino fruit, the candles produced now become harder than steel after solidification, and require extremely high temperatures to melt. Crocodile just needs to draw the blueprint of the house and leave the construction to Gardino. Moreover, he only had to build the basic frame of the house, while the walls of the house were completed by Crocodile. After the fruit awakened, even though the structure of the sand was relatively loose, the walls he built were still very solid. Although it is not as strong as Gardino candle, it is much stronger than an ordinary brick wall. After all, this kind of wall was originally used by Crocodile to block other people attacks. If we don't consider his and Gardino physical strength, it would probably only take a day or two to complete the basic work of this city. Gardino took the drawing from Crocodile and after studying it for more than 10 minutes, He had an idea in his mind. He stretched out his hands and pressed the ground. The land was affected by Gardino ability and directly turned into a milky white candle, which then solidified to form a foundation under his control. This is the ability to create that can only be possessed after the parahuman devil fruit is awakened. This workload is quite heavy and it really tests Gardino physical fitness. Unlike Crocodile, there is sand available everywhere. Even if you don't have it, you can use your ability to turn other things into sand. Fortunately, Crocodile had the foresight to strengthen his physical strength. Thanks to Gardino efforts, rows of 6-story buildings rose from the ground. Even though it's just a frame, it looks spectacular. According to Crocodile plan, this residential area alone can accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. Crocodile was also thoughtful enough to design water pipes for each house. A sewer pipe covering the entire city was currently being excavated by Dorothy. For Dorothy, who ate the mole fruit, digging tunnels underground is as natural as breathing. As the construction continued, Gardino physical strength gradually ran out, and beads of sweat the size of bins kept sliding down his forehead. But this guy is very ruthless and is still gritting his teeth to persevere. However, what Crocodile didn't know was that Gardino believed that his boss had done him a favor, so he not only spared his death sentence, but also made him even more powerful. He swore in his heart that he would complete the task assigned by his boss at all costs and not let him down again. Crocodile also noticed Gardino efforts. Suddenly, an idea occurred to him. It was obvious that there was not enough money to improve his physical strength at this time. It would be better to spend a little money and pass on the life back to him. As long as he has something to eat, his endurance will be greatly enhanced. So he casually called an attendant and asked him to prepare a large amount of food. The residential area is now more than halfway completed and Crocodile hopes to complete the work today. There are more arrangements to be made tomorrow. The war at the top is just a few months away, and Crocodile urgently needs more money to improve himself and his men, so he must seize every moment. About another hour later, 2 large trucks of food were delivered. "Hey, Gardino, come over here and rest for a while and eat something." Hearing this, Gardino heaved a sigh of relief and dragged his tired body towards Crocodile. After several enhancements by Crocodile, this guy has completely gotten rid of his previous somewhat wretched appearance. He was over 2 meters tall and very strong, with bulging muscles on his bare arms. Except for being a little timid when facing Crocodile, he can already show the temperament of a strong man in front of other people. Close your eyes and feel it carefully. Now I will teach you a set of skills that can quickly restore your physical strength and the injuries on your body. If you learn this move, you can control any hair on your body at will. Crocodile put a hand on Gardino's shoulder and whispered to him. This time he wasn't going to let the other party lie in the sandbox and pretend, as that would make people more suspicious in public. He tried to summon the strongest training camp directly in his mind, but he didn't expect that it would work. After decisively purchasing the life return, the assets were reduced by another 15 million Baileys. Gardino only felt his boss holding his shoulders, and a warm current kept flowing into his body. He gradually felt that he seemed to be able to communicate with any part of his body. Even a hair can understand his intention. As his mind moved, the bunch of hair on his head that was coiled in the shape of a 3 began to dance like a living little snake. As the strand of hair twisted more and more wildly, the rubber band that tied the hair suddenly broke. Gardino hair actually stood up straight and was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wow, so magical. Gardino touched his new hedgehog-like hairstyle. Wouldn't that make us just like that MR5 guy so tasteless? Gardino thought about it and felt that it was not appropriate, so he used both hands to push his hair back into a shoulder-length slicked-back style. Why did my glasses suddenly become so blurry? Gardino took off the glasses he had worn for many years and checked them in confusion, thinking that there was something dirty on them. Unexpectedly, when he took off his glasses, he found that the world in front of him was exceptionally clear. It can even cure myopia. Gardino was shocked. What kind of magical power is this that my boss taught me? How do you feel? Crocodile couldn't help asking when he saw his dazed look. Boss, Thank you for your hard work in training me." Gardino bowed deeply to Crocodile excitedly, his voice already filled with tears. Crocodile didn't expect him to react so strongly, and didn't know what to say, so he just patted his shoulders twice and said, "Do your best, you are someone I value very much." After receiving the affirmation from his boss, Gardino finally couldn't hold it in any longer and burst into tears. In this bloody and cruel world, being appreciated and cultivated by a strong man is what countless people dream of, and he couldn't help but be moved. After eating a car and a half full of food, Gardino was once again shocked by the miracle of the return of life. At the same time, he also realized that it was this ability that allowed his boss to recover quickly yesterday. Gardino, who was fully revived, threw himself into work again with full energy, and his speed was several points faster than before. Crocodile work was easy for him. His resources were everywhere on the ground. He only needed to expend a little physical effort, and solid sand walls would quickly take shape within the already built frame. The two of them completed the infrastructure work of a very large community in just one afternoon. As night fell, there was not enough light in the area and it was not suitable to continue the work, so everyone had to return to the city to rest. Brew brew brew, brew brew brew. It was already late at night, and Crocodile, who was resting, heard the rapid ringing of the den den mushi. Who could it be at this time? Crocodile hesitated for a moment and then answered the phone. "Hello, the Straw Hat Pirates and I have arrived at Jaya Island. They are trying to find a way to get to Sky Island." Crocodile familiar mature voice came from the other end of the line. Hearing Robin's voice, Crocodile couldn't help but curl up his lips slightly. "Are you used to living with the Straw Hat Pirates?" Robin was stunned when she heard that. She remembered that this was the first time the boss called her like that. She instantly felt that the distance between them had shortened a lot. Then, as if she suddenly remembered something happy, she narrowed her eyes slightly, chuckled and said, "Well, they are a very interesting group of guys. If you encounter any difficulties that are difficult to solve, don't forget that you have me as your boss. I won't be polite with you," Robin said in a rare playful way. That it, by goodbye. In order to avoid Robin being exposed, Crocodile could not continue the pleasantries and could only say goodbye. Through the information provided by Robin, Crocodile calculated that the Straw Hat Pirates would encounter a Neil in the next 2 or 3 days. Jaya Island is not far from Alabasta, and for Crocodile who can fly, it can reach there in no more than a day. Even after arriving at Sky Island, it might take some effort to find Enil. The gold there is what Crocodile urgently needs at the moment. This time when he goes to Sky Island, he wants to get both Enil and gold. Crocodile plans to set off in 3 days, as long as he can find Enil before he goes to the moon. The next day, the work continued. Crocodile and Gardino picked up speed again, and buildings rose from the ground. The people who came to work on the project looked at the two people working in perfect harmony as if they were seeing a miracle. No one could have imagined that a house could be built this way, so quickly and so well. Whenever they finished building a building, the workers in charge of decoration would immediately enter the site to work, and the connection was very smooth. On the 3rd day, Mr1 and others also arrived in Eden with a large sum of money. Also arriving were people from other cities who wanted to immigrate. Valentine, Makita, pointed at Gardino, who was following Crocodile like a shadow, and asked curiously, "Who is this? I am MR3, can't you see it so obvious?" Gardino said angrily, pointing at his nose. "Did you eat something wrong? How did you become like this?" MR1, Bonus, who usually doesn't talk much, rarely spoke. "I have been strengthened by the boss, and now I am very powerful." "You'd better respect the strong." Gardino crossed his arms and said proudly. "Ha, this joke is not funny at all." MR5, Gem, said while picking his nose. "Want to have a fight to see how powerful I am?" Gardino put his face in front of MR5, Gem, aggressively. "Come on, do you think I am afraid of you?" MR5, Gem, said unwillingly. "Boom boom, you two, stop it." Crocodile finally couldn't stand it anymore and stopped the quarrel between the two with 2 iron fists of love. 2 big bags instantly appeared on the 2 men's heads. The 2 of them covered their heads, tears of pain welling up in their eyes. and immediately they became as obedient as two kittens. I am going out to sea in a couple of days. It won't be long. For the time being, your task is to look after the company funds. Nothing else matters except this. This place is close to the sea, and right now the order is very chaotic. I am afraid that after I leave, someone will take the opportunity to come and steal or rob. Don't be a bunch of idiots and let others lure you away. Just keep an eye on the money. Even if this city is razed to the ground, it has nothing to do with you. Crocodile gave the order in a serious tone, saying that the money was related to his future foundation and he could not ignore it. He didn't want to go out and come back to find his house had been robbed. Everyone quickly obeyed the order. On the last day, with the hard work of Crocodile and Gardino, the framework of Eden main core building was completed. As for the remaining work such as bridge construction, road paving, landscaping, and decoration, Crocodile can no longer help much. With Gardino, the strongest tool man, nothing is a problem. After giving his men detailed arrangements for the next task, Crocodile turned into a piece of yellow sand and flew towards the deep sea. The target is Sky Island, the strongest fighter, and the land of gold that everyone longs for. Using abilities to fly long distances is a very physically demanding task. After flying for most of the day, Crocodile was already feeling very hungry. There was no village or shop in the vast ocean, but fortunately he brought a recording pointer with him. As long as you arrive at Mogu Town, you can have a big meal and replenish your energy. After flying for a few more hours, night fell. Crocodile, with sharp eyes, discovered that there was a place on the sea in the distance that was emitting a faint glow like a firefly. This should be the Magic Valley town. Crocodile took out the record pointer to confirm it again, and felt a little happy. Finally, I can have a good meal. As a lawless area, Mogu Town is more lively at night than during the day. The streets were bustling with pirates. They laughed wildly, sang, cursed each other, and fought. It seems like this is their paradise. Hungry Crocodile wandered the streets, looking for a place to eat. Given his domineering appearance, even though many pirates did not recognize him as the famous 7 warlords of the sea Crocodile, no one dared to provoke him. Wherever Crocodile passes, the pirates will consciously make way for him. This guy looks so familiar. He looks like he not easy to mess with. Anyone who came to this shabby place must not be a big shot. Someone said disdainfully. Do you think he looks a lot like Crocodile? TSK, you idiots who have never seen the world. Don't you know that Crocodile left hand is a golden hook? It can't be his. Some pirates standing on the street doing nothing began to speculate about Crocodile identity. Crocodile, whose mind is now filled with only food, doesn't want to pay any attention to these small fish. As Crocodile was walking and looking for taverns on both sides of the street, he suddenly felt as if something was blocking his way. Crocodile turned his head and looked at him puzzledly. He saw 4 tall and strong men, exuding a dangerous aura, staring at him eagerly. Ha 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 ha, God is really kind to me. I just let the Straw Hat Pirates escape, but God turned around and gave me an even bigger gift. A big black fat man with bare chest, curly hair all over his face and body, and several missing teeth laughed wildly at Crocodile with shining eyes. Blackbeard, Marshall D. Teach. Crocodile face became serious and he quickly recognized the man in front of him. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect that even the famous 7 warlords of the sea, Crocodile, knew my name. It seems that I am not a nobody. Blackbeard laughed wildly again. How is it possible this man is actually Crocodile Killer? I never thought I'd see someone like this in my lifetime. The 7 warlords of the sea, they are the powerful ones standing at the top of this world. Who is that Blackbeard? How dare he challenge the 7 warlords head on? There are many pirates who are daring enough not to fear death. This is nothing strange. That right. If he can kill Crocodile, he will be the new Shichibukai. It will be worth it even if he sacrifices his life for it. The pirates nearby were shocked when they heard Blackbeard's words. They didn't expect that the man in front of them was really the legendary pirate. Teach, you are standing in front of me, Do you have any advice for me? Crocodile narrowed his eyes and said in a cold tone, I have been eyeing your position as one of the 7 warlords of the sea for a long time. If you become my companion and give up your position, perhaps I will consider sparing your life, Blackbeard said with a sinister look on his face. Crocodile was very sure that when Blackbeard said this, he definitely didn't know that he had just fought a fierce battle with the Navy hero Garp not long ago. Moreover, Blackbeard would be very confident that his dark fruit could easily defeat Crocodile, who also has this ability. If it's still the Crocodile from the original world, you might really be in big trouble if you meet him. However, this Crocodile now has a golden finger and has already mastered the armament hockey, observation hockey, and physical skills to a very high level. Who do you think I am? Crocodile, who was already in a bad mood because of hunger, instantly became furious when he heard Blackbeard's words. Is he the kind of trash that you can easily step on? I am Crocodile. Blackbeard had sensed that Crocodile was going to attack, and was about to defend himself. However, at such a close distance, there was no way Crocodile could let him do as he wished. Shave! Crocodile shouted. Blackbeard only felt a flash before his eyes and felt something was wrong. A black iron fist filled with crocodile anger had already hit him hard on the cheek. Blackbeard's eyes rolled back and he shot out like a cannonball in an instant. All the pirates he bumped into along the way had their bones and muscles broken. Blackbeard finally stopped only after flying 50 or 60 meters and smashing several houses into ruins, stirring up countless smoke and dust. However, Crocodile, who had knocked Blackbeard away with one punch, did not stop. His speed was so fast that Blackbeard's 3 companions, Bosch's, Vanoka, and Poison Q, were unable to react. After watching their captain being knocked away, the 3 were also severely injured by Crocodile one after another. The houses nearby collapsed in large parts, as if they had been bombed. The whole street was filled with the wailing of pirates. The remaining pirates who were not affected stood there in a daze, not daring to move. In the first half of the Grand Line, most of the pirates had never seen any big scenes or big shots. The man in front of them caused such horrific destructive power with just one punch that made them feel like they were dreaming. Mogu Town is not the territory ruled by Crocodile, and the pirates here are not the people under his rule. He started fighting here without any scruples. Compassion and kindness are things that only people can have towards themselves. The pirates here are not worthy. After carefully using his observation hockey to sense, Crocodile confirmed that the 3 people behind him had fainted and would not pose any threat for the time being. However, Crocodile was very familiar with Blackbeard, a man who always had high defense and thick blood. Even if they are severely damaged, they can fight again after a short rest, or even launch a desperate counterattack. Crocodile doesn't underestimate him at all. Taking moon steps, he instantly arrived near Blackbeard and stopped not far away. The big black fat man was rolling on the ground screaming. There was a large pool of blood on the ground. Obviously he had just vomited. Double the pain. Extreme pleasure. Even though he knew that the dark fruit had such side effects, this man still chose it without hesitation. I have to say that Blackbeard is a tyrant who is several times more vicious than Crocodile. Get up and continue. I know your strength. Teach, Crocodile said lightly. Upon hearing this, Blackbeard turned over and sat up, panting heavily with sweat all over his forehead. Ha ha ha, I underestimated you, Crocodile. Although a little weak, Blackbeard still forced out his signature laugh. Crocodile remained noncommittal, looking down at the other person with indifference. I have a question. I am very curious. Blackbeard stared at Crocodile, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and asked with a wide mouth. What? Crocodile replied without even raising his eyelids. I have a feeling that you seem to know me very well. Blackbeard asked solemnly. That right, I not only know how strong you are, but also your purpose and the secret that you can possess multiple devil fruits at the same time, Crocodile said grimly. Blackbeard's pupils shrank upon hearing this, and cold sweat broke out all over his body. He had never told anyone this secret, so how did Crocodile know it? If Crocodile made his secret public, countless powerful people would rush to capture him and dissect him for research. Possessing multiple devil fruits at the same time is an ability that would drive anyone crazy. As long as you have this ability, standing on the top of the world is only a matter of time. Blackbeard now had only one thought in his mind, and that was that he must kill the man in front of him. If this person doesn't die, there will be endless troubles for him. Blackbeard's pupils shrank, like a beast choosing its prey. He stared at Crocodile with a ferocious expression, emitting a violent aura. Sometimes, knowing too much is not necessarily a good thing. Dark water, Blackbeard growled, and a black light flashed in his right hand. An extremely powerful suction force suddenly enveloped Crocodile. However, Crocodile had been on guard against this old man, and the skin hidden under his clothes was already covered with armed color domineering. The moment Blackbeard activated his ability, Crocodile turned every corner of his body black. When the armament hockey is strong enough, it can isolate the ability of devil fruit. Not only was the dark fruit unable to exert any influence on Crocodile at this time, but Crocodile used the powerful suction force to quickly approach the opponent. Blackbeard also noticed something was wrong. After using the ability of the fruit, he did not seem to be able to grab the opponent body from a distance as usual. Instead, it sucked in a lot of debris from the surrounding area. So he quickly changed his tactics and used the same armament hockey to punch Crocodile. However, Blackbeard, who had just used the dark fruit, seemed a little sluggish. The masters fought in a flash, and Crocodile seized the opportunity of this tiny time difference. Finger gun, Gatling. Crocodile hands turned into countless afterimages, and its pitch-black index fingers kept piercing into Blackbeard's body as easily as piercing into a piece of tofu. After a series of moves, Crocodile ended with a flying kick, kicking Blackbeard dozens of meters away again, crashing into countless people and houses. He walked up to Blackbeard again with the moon steps, and he had completely turned into a bloody man. It hurts, it hurts. It hurts so much. Blackbeard kept howling in pain. Why doesn't my ability work on you? Blackbeard covered his wound and gasped. Dark acupoints. The right hand filled with black mist pressed heavily towards the ground, and darkness spread rapidly. The terrifying dark aura is like a black hole, and any object that comes into contact with it cannot escape its devouring power. People on the street were wailing and running away, but no one could escape. All people or objects sucked in will be crushed by the unmatched force. If he doesn't stop, it won't be long before the entire Demon Valley town will be sucked dry by him. What a troublesome ability. Crocodile had no choice but to ascend dozens of meters using the moon step to avoid any unpredictable accidents. Come on, Crocodile, come on down and fight me. Ha ha ha. Blackbeard shouted ferociously. Liberate. Blackbeard swung his right hand towards Crocodile. Everything that had just been sucked into the dark tunnel, the wreckage of countless buildings and the severed limbs and corpses of pirates gathered into a vast ocean, sweeping towards Crocodile. Crocodile was not at all panicked when he saw this. He just moved his mind and a tornado appeared in his palm. Big sandstorm. The tornado grew wildly as soon as it left Crocodile palm, and hit the garbage released by Blackbeard head-on. No object could escape its terrifying suction and was sucked into it. Littering is not a good habit. Teach. Crocodile looked down at Blackbeard with a mocking look on his face. When Blackbeard saw that his attack had no effect, his face became more ferocious, as if he wanted to eat Crocodile alive. Didn't you just ask why your ability doesn't work on me? Then I might as well tell you that when hockey is strong enough, it is possible to be unaffected by the devil fruit. As he said that, he began to move at high speed, getting closer and closer to Blackbeard. Is what he said true? Blackbeard's pupils shrank. He had never studied this kind of question carefully. Ever since he went to great lengths to obtain the dark fruit, he can easily defeat any opponent he encounters. Having never encountered a truly strong person, and with the invincibility of Whitebeard after possessing the tremor fruit, he had an illusion that the powerful devil fruit could solve all problems. Dark water. How could the things that I have believed in be shattered by just a few words? Blackbeard stretched out his black hand again, and within the area covered by his palm, black lights were spinning rapidly like a tornado. releasing unprecedented suction. "You don't know how to live or die," Crocodile sneered, and his right fist, which was wrapped in black and purple armament color domineering, slammed towards Blackbeard with unparalleled power, and was not affected by the dark fruit at all. Oh no! Blackbeard was horrified when he found that Crocodile was unmoved, and he summoned his armament color to defend himself. However, how could Blackbeard weak armament hockey be able to withstand Crocodile Iron Fist? He is the man who just confronted the ceiling of armament hockey head-on. Blackbeard was very strong in physical skills, and he hurriedly raised his arms to block Crocodile fists. However, every time he blocked a punch, the force, like being hit by a meteorite, would penetrate his skin and seep into his muscles and bones. "Ah, it hurts, it hurts. It hurts," Blackbeard screamed miserably while blocking the attack. "This is a fundamental difference in power. How can we stop it? It is impossible to stop it." Before long, Blackbeard felt his arms were in so much pain that he was gradually losing control. Crocodile Iron Fist began to hit his body hard, punch after punch, until a heavy blow sent Blackbeard flying dozens of meters away again. "Should I kill him now?" This was a real thought that occurred in Crocodile mind at this moment. This fat black man exudes awareness all over his body. Even though Crocodile knew in advance that he could use multiple devil fruits, he didn't know why he could do this. He is also extremely insidious and cunning, and is unscrupulous and cruel. All the members of his Blackbeard pirates are bloodthirsty people who disregard life. They can be said to be the source of the chaos in the world. But Crocodile changed his mind and realized that in order to break the existing world order, such a person is necessary. Only when the world is in chaos can he get more opportunities to stir up trouble. If Blackbeard, the son of destiny, is killed now, the war at Manaford will not be able to continue. Even if historical inertia is followed, another war of massive scale will occur. But the plot at that time was not the story that Crocodile was familiar with. Everything will be out of his control and become unknown. The risk is too great. Crocodile calmly walked towards Blackbeard step by step. Da-da-da-da-da. The leather shoes made a clear sound as they hit the ground. However, when the footsteps reached Blackbeard's ears, it was like the death knell. Every footstep made him feel like his heart was about to stop. At this time, he finally realized the fact that he was no match for the man in front of him. If he still held on to the same idea as before, he would surely die here today, so he quickly withdrew his ability. "Please, let me go. I won't dare to mess with you again. Master Crocodile, please forgive me this time." Seeing that he could not escape, Blackbeard knelt on the ground crying and kowtowed to Crocodile for mercy. As expected of a man with the talent of a hero, you are able to bend and stretch yourself. Crocodile watched the other party performance coldly but did not stop him. "Teach, do you know why I didn't reveal your secret?" Crocodile said in a flat tone. Blackbeard was sweating and leaned down, not daring to look at Crocodile. "No, I don't know that, because even if you can use 10 devil fruits, I can still beat you like a dog like I did today. The abilities and secrets you are most proud of are worthless in front of me." Crocodile tone suddenly became grim. Blackbeard was shocked when he heard this, and something in his heart seemed to break at that moment. "Yes, Crocodile can ignore my miraculous ability, so he must have a more terrifying trump card. What he showed today may only be the tip of the iceberg of his strength. He possesses such powerful strength, but he remains hidden all the time, like a giant crocodile, hiding in the undercurrent of this world and waiting for the opportunity. I am afraid his plan is much bigger than mine." "I see." Blackbeard looked dejected and sat on the ground as if he had lost all his strength. "You can punish me in any way you want, but please be magnanimous and spare my life. You'd better not mess with me next time. You won't be so lucky next time." When Blackbeard raised his head again, he found that the murderer had already left. Blackbeard stared at Crocodile's receding figure with a resentful look, and said harshly, "Crocodile, when I get the tremor fruit from that old fellow Whitebeard, I will definitely take back the humiliation I suffered today." Blackbeard forced himself to get up despite the severe pain and went to look for his companions, fearing that Crocodile would change his mind and come back to kill them all. Blackbeard found Poison Q first and slapped him on the cheek to wake him up. Poison Q asked weakly, "Captain, have you dealt with Crocodile?" "Shut up. Wake up those two guys and let leave. If Crocodile comes back to kill us, we will all die." Blackbeard roared at Poison Q after waking up Bosches and Vanoka. They both asked the same question, and Blackbeard did not explain much. "Just tell them that before they have enough strength, they must stay away from any place where Crocodile exists and avoid conflicts with it, because it is a complete monster." After a battle with Blackbeard, the surviving area of the entire Magic Valley town was less than a quarter of its original size. The wreckage of buildings and bodies crushed beyond recognition were scattered everywhere. Those who survived were scrambling to escape, as this place was no longer the paradise it once was. It was hard to find a place to eat. Crocodile can only casually summon a small pirate who is on the run. "Hey, you. Come here for a moment." "Me?" The little pirate pointed at his nose in disbelief, his legs shaking. "Yes, it you," Crocodile confirmed helplessly. The little pirate came over tremblingly and asked cautiously, "I wonder what Master Crocodile wants me to do. Is there any place to eat in this area? Most of them were destroyed just now." The little pirate was almost crying when he said this. He was afraid that he might say something wrong and be punched to death by this vicious man. "Anything else lead the way." Crocodile sighed and could only eat what he had. Yes, it over there. "I will take you there." The little pirate hurriedly nodded and bowed to lead the way. Finally finding a tavern that served food, Crocodile waved the little pirate away and pushed open the door to go in. At this time, the tavern was packed with people who had just managed to survive but didn't want to leave. When they saw that the person who pushed the door open was Crocodile, the air seemed to freeze instantly. Everyone looked at Crocodile in horror, not daring to make any move. For a moment, the only sound in the tavern besides crocodile footsteps was the faint sound of many people swallowing their saliva. "Boss, give me 50 servings of the best food in your store first." Crocodile didn't care about the reactions of these people. He walked straight to the bar and sat down. He knocked on the table and said to the tavern owner, who had a dazed look on his face. The boss was relieved when he heard that the big man was here for dinner. He hesitantly agreed, Okay, please wait a moment." The atmosphere in the tavern was surprisingly weird, and many pirates who were close to the door tiptoed away secretly. Soon, Crocodile and the tavern owner and waiter were the only ones left inside. The food tasted ordinary. Crocodile could only swallow it with a frown. He quickly finished all 50 servings. "Do you know which direction to go to Sky Island?" Crocodile casually asked the tavern owner. "Sky Island? That's just a legend." "How could I know about such a thing?" the boss said with an awkward smile with cold sweat on his face. It seemed that there was nothing more to be asked, so Crocodile said no more. As far as he knew, Sky Island was located in the endless White Sea. To reach the White Sea, one has to ride the ocean currents and reach an altitude of 7,000 meters, and above the White Sea there is the White Sea, which is over 10,000 meters high. Now he must have missed the rushing current, and perhaps he could reach it by flying upwards. If Kaido can go there, there is no reason why he can't get there. Throwing down a wad of money, Crocodile left the tavern. Looking up at the dark sky and after a little thought, Crocodile decided to find a place to stay for the night before setting off again. At this time, even if we reached the White Sea, it would be pitch black and there would be no place to stay. The next morning, after eating something, Crocodile turned into yellow sand and flew straight into the sky. It didn't take long for Crocodile to reach the bottom of the sea of clouds. Without hesitation, he plunged into the cloud and passed through it with ease. Crocodile looked around and saw nothing but white clouds, which looked very spectacular. What made him frustrated was that the clouds were filled with dense water vapor and his clothes were soaked. Another thing that bothered him was that he didn't know the exact direction of Shandora. There wasn't even any place for him to stay. As a last resort, Crocodile continued to fly higher into the sky. After flying another 1,000 meters upwards, Crocodile finally saw land. Crocodile decided to go check it out. Maybe he could meet someone he could ask for directions. After landing in a primeval forest filled with huge trees, Crocodile blew up a large cloud of yellow sand that began to spread across the land. After attaching his observation hockey to the sand, each grain can serve as his eyes. However, after searching for a long time, Crocodile did not find any living creatures except animals. Have the Straw Hat Pirates already started fighting with Enil? Crocodile thought, rubbing his chin. Boom! At this moment, Crocodile heard a few muffled thunders coming faintly from a very far distance. Crocodile immediately turned to the direction of the voice, a smile on his face. I found you, Enil. As Crocodile got closer, more and more thunder reached his ears. From a distance, Crocodile could vaguely see a huge blue ball floating in the sky. Is this Lei Ying? What a terrifying pressure. It true that he can destroy a city with one strike. It a pity that we met a cheating protagonist, otherwise the four emperors would be terrified if they met him. Crocodile has no intention of intervening in Enel and Luffy fight. To subdue such a powerful younger brother, you must also choose the right time. Only when Luffy defeats Enel can he let go of his fantasies and recognize himself.